Hello, and welcome to the overview of the Teacher Incentive Allotment Spending and Funding webinar. In today's webinar, we will go over the Teacher Incentive Allotment funding and district spending requirements, and then we will go into 3 key decisions that districts need to make about their TIA spending plan, including the timing of the teacher compensation, the type of teacher compensation, and the amount of teacher compensation. The goal of today's session will be that participants will be able to identify the statutory requirements of the Teacher Incentive Allotment spending and funding, as well as identify the best practices around TIA spending and funding. For a district who is interested in applying for a local designation system, these spending decisions are a key component of the system development and planning part of the process. These decisions will need to be communicated to TEA as part of the Step 1 system application. In the Step 1 system application, there will be a tab specifically dedicated to a district spending plan. Some of the key questions that will be asked include, what % of the allotment will go to the designated teacher, what % to other teachers on that campus, and what % to the district? How and when will teachers receive compensation? How will this change if teachers move within the year? And will the compensation be TRS eligible? The statutory requirements for the teacher incentive allotment can be found in Texas Education Code Chapter 48.112. The statutory requirements include 3 main pieces. First, at least 90% of the teacher incentive allotment must be used for compensation of teachers employed at the campus where the designated teacher works. And up to 10% can be used for costs associated with supporting a local designation system or to support teachers in obtaining designations. Secondly, all districts must expend the funding to meet statute by August 31st of each year. For example, if allotment dollars are generated by 2020-2021 designations, those dollars must be expended by the district by August 31st of 2021. The third main point is that districts will receive funding for the Teacher Incentive Allotment through the Foundation Schools Program, or the FSP. That means that continued allotments will be based on previous year projections with an annual settle-up in September. Here are some examples of spending that districts can do that meet the pieces of statute found in Chapter 48.112. On the left-hand side include examples of district spending that meet the at least 90% part of the statute. Some of these examples include funding for additional stipends for hard-to-fill teaching positions, funding for teachers who may not yet be eligible in your district's designation system, and funding to increase compensation for teachers in the district through salary schedule increases. Some examples of how districts are choosing to spend the up to 10% part of statute include funding for teacher professional development, funding for additional teacher observation calibration, funding for student growth measure assessments and/or analysis, and also funding for administrative or non-teacher compensation. We will now review a TIA funding and district spending timeline for a district applying for a local designation system as a Cohort C. In this diagram, all green squares will represent local actions and all blue squares will represent state actions. For Cohort C district in FY 2020, they will have submitted and been approved of their Step 1 system application. In FY 2021, they will capture their teacher effectiveness data, which will include at minimum teacher observation and student growth data. In FY 2022, they will submit their data to Texas Tech University with a per designated teacher fee. They will then be notified of final system approval, and then in April, they will be notified of final 2021-2022 designations and the annual allotment funds based on 2021-2022 winter class roster data. They will then be expected to expend that funding between April and August. In FY 2023, the district would then receive their FSP payout of 2021-2022 designations, including their fee reimbursement. Also in September, they would begin receiving their monthly FSP payout for 2022-2023 based on prior year actual amounts. Then in April of that year, they will be notified of their final 2022-2023 designations and their annual TIA allotment based on that year's winter class roster data. Similar as the year before, they will then be expected to expend all the funding prior to the end of August. Moving into FY 2024, they would then receive a settle-up based on their actual 2022-2023 designations and amounts, and then once again begin receiving monthly FSP payouts based on 2022-2023 actual amounts. Each April, districts who've received TIA funding will receive notification of their final designations and annual allotment amounts based on that year's winter class roster data. This slide shows a sample of that report. The report will contain district, campus, and teacher level information. The Teacher Incentive Allotment amounts are also available in a district's Source of Funds report or SOF report. The report will show the amount that was projected in the Legislative Planning Estimate or LPE column and the actual amount in the DPE or District Planning Estimate column. This is a sample of a district's first year settle-up report. For the first year, since there was not TIA funding received the prior year, the LPE column will be 0. This slide shows a sample of a district receiving continuing TIA funding. Please note that the LPE column will always be based on prior year amounts, and the DPE column will update to represent the actual earned amount at the end of the year. Other cohort-specific spending diagrams can be found on our website at www.tiatexas.org. For districts who are not pursuing a local designation system, this slide represents their timeline. Once again, the key date will be April. Since the district will not receive official notification from TEA until April, it is strongly suggested that district HR departments review teacher virtual certifications to verify if a teacher is designated in the fall. Now we will review a scenario of what happens if a teacher moves. In this example, the recognized teacher generated $4,619 for District A in 1920, and then moved to District B in September of 2020. They taught in District B in 2021 and was captured in District B's winter class roster data. In this scenario, District B would receive the allotment generated by this recognized teacher for 2021 in the amount of $7,531. And District A's allotment would be adjusted at the time of September settle-up and reduced down to $0. Now let's say that the teacher decided to move to District B and was captured in their winter class roster, but then decided in March to move to District C. In this scenario, District B would still receive the full allotment for 2021 since the teacher was there for winter class roster. District C would not receive any funding since the teacher was not there during winter class roster. Now we will move on to the key decisions districts will need to make about their spending plan and start with the timing of when they will pay their teachers. We will review 4 common options that districts have considered. In this first option, the district is deciding to compensate designated teachers in monthly stipends or as part of their salary. Key dates to keep in mind are the deadline to spend funds in August and the date funds are confirmed, which is in February during winter class roster. Districts should consider the following. First, what has stakeholder feedback been about when teachers want to be compensated? How likely are designated teachers to leave within the school year? What will the district do if the teacher leaves before February? What will the district do if the teacher leaves after February but before the last payout is set to occur? In this option, the district has decided to pay in one fall stipend and one spring stipend. In this scenario, the district should consider the following. First, what has stakeholder feedback been? Second, how likely are designated teachers to leave within the school year? Third, what will the district do if the designated teacher leaves before February, when the allotment is confirmed? And fourth, what will they do if the teacher leaves after February but before May? In this option, the district has decided to pay in one spring stipend in May. In this scenario, the district should consider first, what has stakeholder feedback been, and what do they do if teachers leave after February but before May? In this final option, the district has decided to pay in one spring stipend for the first year and monthly stipends from then on. In this scenario, the district should consider the following. First, what has stakeholder feedback been? Second, how likely are designated teachers to leave within the school year? Third, what should the district do if the designated teacher leaves before February and the annual allotment can be confirmed? And fourth, what should the district do if teachers leave after February but before May? This slide shows a chart of best practice questions that districts should consider when deciding the timing of when to compensate teachers. These questions can include, what have your teachers and stakeholders advised regarding the timing of the compensation? How will your compensation plan change if a designated teacher leaves or retires after winter class roster and before payout? What is the likely movement of designated teachers throughout the year, considering that the TIA allotments are calculated based on winter class roster data? And finally, what additional funds are available in case a designated teacher leaves prior to winter class roster? Now we will review the second key question for districts, which is the type of compensation that will be issued to teachers. The type of compensation is entirely district choice. Districts may want to consider if the type of compensation is TRS eligible. In general, the following types are TRS eligible. They may include compensation as part of a teacher's base salary, delayed lump sum payment or delayed payment of sum that should have been paid in fixed intervals, compensation as part of a district's approved performance pay plan, compensation under a teacher's annual contract, stipends if they are earned, accrued, and paid proportionally. Please note that the TRS has limits on eligible salary increases in the last 3 or 5 years prior to retirement, which could limit the extent to which TIA compensation paid in those years is TRS eligible. Districts are encouraged to contact their TRS reporting employer or RE coach to determine the eligibility of their TIA compensation. We will now review Sample ISD's TIA compensation plan. In this scenario, this plan is generally TRS eligible for the designated teacher because it will be part of that teacher's contract. However, we encourage districts to please reach out to their TRS RE coach to confirm. Some best practice district questions to consider include, is the TIA compensation plan TRS eligible for designated teachers? Is the TIA compensation plan TRS eligible for non-designated teachers? And then, has the district secured the required approvals prior to dispersing funds, which may include review of contracts, budgets, and compensation plans? A frequently asked question may be, what documents are needed to determine TRS eligibility? Districts most often will need to submit either a compensation plan or their board minutes, whichever document outlines the plan and the dates paid. We will now review the last decision that districts will need to decide, which is the amount of the allotment that will go towards the designated teacher, or to other teachers on the campus, or to the district. We will now review a sample option that is found on this slide. In this example, we have a district who is applying for a local designation system where not all teaching assignments are yet eligible. In this example, this district has decided to vary the amount to the designated teacher based on the campus where the designated teacher works. If a teacher works at a higher needs campus, they would receive a higher percentage of the allotment. This district has also decided to use 15 to 35% on the campus to fund stipends for hard-to-staff roles. And then this district has decided to hold back 0 to 10% to fund the development of student growth measures for assignments that are not yet eligible. This district should consider the following. First, what has stakeholder feedback been? Second, how will this improve their district's TIA goals around recruitment, retention, and distribution of effective teachers? Third, are the hard-to-staff positions also eligible to earn a designation? And finally, how will the stipend change if there is movement of designated teachers? Another sample option is found on this slide. In this example, this district has decided to spend 90% on the designated teacher in years 1 and 2, and then 50 to 90% in years 3 to 5, depending on that teacher's performance. They have then decided to spend 0 to 40% across all other teachers on that campus who have not earned a designation. And then this district has also decided to use their 10% to fund mentors for a district national board cohort. This district should consider the following. First, what has stakeholder feedback been? Second, how will this improve their district's TIA goals? And then finally, how will the amount to other teachers change if there is movement of designated teachers? Some best practice district questions to think about are included on this slide. First, what have your teachers and stakeholders advised regarding the amount of the compensation? Second, how will the compensation align to the district's goals around recruitment, retention, and equitable distribution of teachers? Third, what are areas in which the district has specific challenges regarding recruitment, retention, and equitable distribution of teachers? Fourth, which teachers are currently eligible to earn a designation in the district's designation system? And then finally, what additional local funds can districts use towards teacher compensation? A frequently asked question could be, when should districts report their TIA revenue? Districts should follow their customary accounting practices to record the revenue for the school year in which it was earned, for example, April, and not when the cash is expected to be received and settle up. Another frequently asked question is, how does TIA potentially impact other funding? TIA funds should be included in Title I, Part A comparability of services testing beginning the fiscal year the districts receive the funds. For example, a district receiving 1920 TIA funds in September of 2020 should be reporting TIA funds in FY21. Districts should also expend funds based on their own fiscal year. And finally, districts will need to preserve MOE or maintenance of effort if using funds for special education programs or Code 23. This slide contains sample district actions that districts can take when developing their TIA spending plan. Thank you for viewing this webinar, and please reach out if there are questions. We can be reached at tia@tea.texas.gov.